In this video I'm going to discuss further integration, and that's volumes of revolution. So a function can be rotated around an axis to make a 3D solid, and this solid is called a volume of revolution. The first example I'm going to do is the rotation of this function around the x-axis, where f of x is equal to e to the x minus 5 plus 1, and that's going to be between 3 and 5. So the equation you're going to need is volume is equal to pi times the integral between a and b of y squared dx, and this is the generic formula where a in the example we're doing is going to be 3 and b is 5. So if we get on with the example, the pi just stays the same, the limits of integration become 3 and 5. The y in this case is e to the x minus 5 plus 1 squared dx. And you keep the pi and the 3 and 5 limits. You have e to the x minus 5 plus 1, and the same again. And that's still got the dx. Expanding this out, you get e to, so when you multiply the powers they add, so e to the 2x minus 10 and the e to the x minus 5 times 1, and you have another one. So it's going to be 2 e to the x minus 5, and then 1 times 1 is just 1. And the dx stays there. Then come to integrate this. The pi is just a constant that stays the same. Integrating this first term, you have e to the 2x minus 10 divided by the derivative of this bit, which is just 2. And then the same method here. So the derivative of this x minus 5 is just 1, so it's divided by 1. So it just stays as 2e to the x minus 5. And then integrate 1 with respect to x, and you just get x. Subbing in the limits, you're going to have e to the 2 times 5 is 10, minus 10 is 0, divided by 2, plus 2 times e to the 5 take 5 is again 0, plus x, which is just 5 in this case, minus 2 times 3 is 6, take 10 is minus 4, 3 take 5 is minus 2, and that's just a plus 3. Anything to the power of 0 is 1, so here you have half. Same again, here you have plus 2, plus 5, minus, this can be rewritten as 1 over 2 e to the 4, and the same here, so it's 2 over e squared plus 3. So simplifying this, you get pi times half plus 2 plus 5 minus 3 is going to give you 9 over 2. And then the that's not very easy to simplify, so I'm just going to leave it as it is, but you're going to have 1 over 2 e to the 4 with a negative, and then a minus 2 over e squared. And put this in a calculator, and you get 13.26. And just to recap, this is the volume you get when you rotate this function around the x-axis 360 degrees. If you're asked in a question, what do you get from 180 degrees, you just half this, or if it was 90 degrees, you take a quarter of this, etc. You could also be asked to rotate something around the y-axis. So for the example I'm going to do is going to be y equals x squared. So the equation I'm going to need here is volume equals, the pi stays the same, you still have an integral between the upper and lower limits, and then you have x squared here dy. So if we follow this through for the example, if we do it between 0 and 3, you're going to have well, x squared here is the same as thing as y, so you just put y in, dy. So integrate this, you get y squared over 2. Evaluate between 0 and 3. So you have pi times 3 squared is 9, divided by 2. 0 squared is 0. And that gives you 9 pi over 2 as the volume when you rotate around the y-axis instead of the x.